Okay, thank you so much everyone who's joining us today. Welcome to the SG webinar series where we create conversation that matters. Today we have two special guests with me who have been here before, and I'm sure everybody is so familiar to them now already. Hi, Emma and Phil.
Hi, Anita.
Hi, Anita. Hi, everybody.
Hi. And actually, everybody is quite expecting today's update, on Scholarcy, because we've been seeing a lot of Scholarcy videos on Facebook, right? And I've been talking to some students who are saying, wow, Scholarcy really makes my life easier, for writing scholar literature review. So we would like to hear more from both of you on what has been the latest update from Scholarcy, and perhaps anything else that we should know. So I would like to invite Emma to come and share your slide. Yeah.
Okay, I will do that now. Thanks, Anita, and great to be here today. I'll just share. So I'm just going to show you a couple of quick slides, and then we're going to jump into a demo. So I know a lot of you are probably familiar with Scholarcy, but just for those that aren't, or for those who are just starting to explore it, Scholarcy is a web app, and it uses deep learning technology to convert articles and book chapters into interactive summary flashcards. And so what we really designed Scholarcy for researchers and students, and the intention was to really help them screen the literature faster, so to cut the time needed to screen a paper or skim read a paper, but also to make that information much easier to retain. And although, Scholarcy, summarization is one aspect of Scholarcy, so it generates a summary flashcard, it pulls out the key concepts, it displays the key highlights, so the main findings and the key knowledge statements from a paper or chapter. It actually does a lot more than that, and so that's what we really want to focus on today. It surfaces a lot of information that gives you more context about the paper, lets you see how it perhaps builds on or compares to earlier studies. And we've now got a lot of features, some export features and other features that really help you to analyze collections of articles. So it's not just about getting information from one paper more easily, it's about analyzing a collection of papers and seeing trends and patterns and comparisons between those papers. And so we're going to be showing you some of those features today. And some of the things that we're going to be focusing on that are new to Scholarcy are the fact that our Chrome extension now works with paywalled articles, which we're really excited about. So in the past, the Chrome extension has only really worked with open access articles or papers. But now if you've got a subscription to a journal and you have the web page of the article open, then you can generate a summary flashcard using the Chrome extension, which I'll show you. And then you can save that to your Scholarcy library and then do all the things that you would do within Scholarcy library. We also are offering more customization of the flashcard. So I think the last time we spoke, we talked to you about the fact that you can now edit key concepts and key highlights in the Scholarcy summary, really just to tailor the flashcard more to your research and to your needs. But we've added more features, which we'll show you in a minute. And then one of the things that Phil's going to be showing you is our comparative analysis feature, which gives you more context on the paper and again shows you how it kind of compares to earlier studies and just gives you more insight. And we've got some more export options which really enable you to analyze collections of papers in more easily, but also it helps you to integrate your Scholarcy library with other services such as Zotero and some of the mind mapping tools. So I'm just going to switch over to my okay. Yeah, can you see that page there?
Yes, we can, Emma. Yeah.
Okay, so here I just wanted to show you how the Chrome extension now works with paywalled articles. So this is a subscription journal, City and Community from Sage, and I've got an article open here about urban neighbourhoods, and you can see that it's the full text of that article. So I'm just going to click on the Scholarcy Chrome extension that I'm guessing some of you have installed. And what that's done is generate, you'll be familiar with the format, the standard Scholarcy summary flashcard here. So I've got this headline summary at the top, the key concepts, the abstract, key highlights, and all of the other sections that you would expect to see in the summary flashcard. And just as a reminder, that's taken from a subscription journal. So I'm just going to save that to my Scholarcy library. And that's going to have dropped it into my main library. So here's the flashcard. I'm just going to open that up. And again, you'll see the structure that you're probably familiar with now. Key concepts, abstract, highlights, and all of the sections that you probably know well by now. But this just means that now if you have a subscription to a journal, then it's much easier to import that content into Scholarcy. So, you don't need the PDF, you can use the Chrome extension and import that straight into your Scholarcy library. And I mentioned that we have a new editing feature. So you know that within your Scholarcy library, if you hit the edit icon, it enables you to edit some of the metadata. So you can change the article name if that was incorrect, for example, or the authors. But now you're also able to change the headline summary. So the headline summary appears in your Scholarcy library just to give you a really quick snapshot of what that paper is about. But it's now possible to edit that, so you can make it, you can really tailor it to your needs. So
Wow.
I'm just...
Thank you for this, because this has been something that people been asking, and I believe a lot of people will be very happy, to be able to tailor, right, the headline. Okay.
Yeah, so you can make it shorter or just easier to read or just more relevant, and you could obviously switch. You can add new text to this. So you can see there that I've just shortened that headline summary there. And just as a very quick reminder, and to those that are new, you can also edit key concepts. So, we provide these key concepts and link them to their definitions in Wikipedia, but you can edit those. So you can remove them, you can add more, you can change the destination links. And similarly with the key highlights, you can edit those as well very easily. So if some of those are less relevant, you can delete them, you can add new ones, and then you can edit the text as well. So with that, I'm just going to pass over to Phil to show more of our analysis and export features.
Great, thanks, Emma. I'll just share my screen. Okay. Can you all see my screen here with I've got a demo library open here.
Yes.
You'll see that. So you may have noticed as Emma was importing that article from Sage into her Scholarcy library using the Chrome extension, you might have noticed there was a tab that said new on it, and this the comparative analysis. So I thought I'd talk about that to explain a bit more about what the purpose of that is and why it's useful. So when you import papers now into your library, you should see for most of them this tab called Comparative Analysis. It won't always be there because what it does is it pulls out the citations inside the document and links them to the references and analyzes the discussion around those citations. So if an article doesn't actually have any references or doesn't have any discussion around other papers, then you may not see that in there. But for most good quality papers, you should see this section appear. And what this does is it just highlights where the author is talking about what other people are saying about this subject that they're researching, and looks at and tries to classify it in terms of, are they talking about how the current paper is building on previous work, or is it talking about how it might differ from it, or how does it contrast, how does it compare and contrast? So I've got this paper here, and it's about plastic pollution in the ocean. And what the comparative analysis done at the start here is just highlighted how this current paper builds on previous research from reference number 31. So it says, we followed a practical approach using commonly employed boundaries and logical considerations consistent with measures in the field of reference 31. So unlike a normal PDF, we can't go straight to reference 31 and find out more about it, but in Scholarcy we can. So I can click on this link, and what it will do is it will take me to that paper. It will try and find the open access version of the paper if it's available, and take me to the full text there if it's there, and then we can go and find out a bit more about that study. If we don't want to leave the paper, if we don't want to leave our Scholarcy at all, we can find out a bit more about that cited paper by clicking on some of the other buttons here. So we've teamed up with Cite.ai, which is another service you might be familiar with. And what Cite.ai does is creates a network of citations, and it tells you about all the conversations that are happening around this topic. So we can see that reference 31, that the current paper is talking about, has also been talked about by thousands of other people, and it's got a green tick here, which means that 38 people have talked about reference number 31 in a positive way, that they've also supported those findings. So it tells us that this paper is building on the work of these guys, reference 31, and that reference 31 is a good quality study because it's got over 1,000 citations, and 31 of those citations are positive. And then we click on that link, and it will take us to Cite.ai, which has a free version, which I'm using here, but you can also sign up and pay for more. So it tells you a bit more of the context around this study. So this is really great for your literature review, because if you want other studies around this topic, then you can click through to Cite.ai and find them. And then the final button here is Scholarcy Findings. And what that tries to do is go away and find reference number 31 and summarize it in the window for you. So there, it's just done it there. It's just created a very quick summary of reference 31 to give you the main sort of findings and the main takeaways from that study. So most of that will come from the abstract, and you can obviously just click and go to that paper here and read it for yourself, but it just allows you just to see a quick snapshot of that paper without leaving Scholarcy, so it can be quite useful. And it does this for every reference that's been cited in the paper when it's been cited in a sort of comparative or contrasting way. So they used some calibration and numerical model predictions from reference 28. So again, we can click on 28 to go and find out more about that if we want to. What other things is it saying? Well, this is an interesting one. This has got a green tick by it, and what that means by it is that the study that we're currently reading confirms previous work by these guys. It says our results confirm similar patterns for all southern hemisphere oceans. And so what it's done is immediately pulled out that information for you and bring it forward so that you don't have to trawl through the paper and find it for yourself. So it's just kind of highlighting what you really need to know here. And again, we can click on reference number 6 and go straight to it to find more about it. So the purpose of that really is just to do the sort of compare and contrast and highlight where that's happening within the paper. And again, we can get statistics about those cited papers from Cite. And again, these are powerful studies. They've got 379 citations, of which 13 are particularly supportive or strong. And again, we can find the other ones there. So it's really just to highlight what comparative analysis does, is it's doing that kind of citation analysis for you and just bringing that information out from the paper.
Wow. Can I just say that this has been the most useful for me because I'm using it right now. Because normally when you meet your supervisor will always ask, okay, what have you found? What's the relation of this paper to the previous paper? And easily I can simply show, so from Scholarcy, I'm able to see, there are several connection to the previous work. This has been very useful for us. Thank you so much.
That's great.
Okay.
No, you're welcome. And I think it's a useful quality indicator, because the more of these little comparative paragraphs that you have, that means that the author of the paper has really considered what's going on in the field and what other people are saying and doing. So the more of this that you have, that means that the paper that you're reading is a good quality paper. And the other thing is you can put your own papers in here. So you could put your own chapter from your thesis in here and see what comparative analysis gets pulled out. And I would argue that the more that comes out here, that's a positive sign. That means you're on the right track with your thesis chapter, that you're writing a lot of that comparison. If you don't see any of that at all with your own paper, then you might want to think about how you're writing your thesis, and maybe are you doing enough of that comparison and that compare and contrast.
Right. I totally agree with that. Especially at least on our chapter 2. So you're saying that we can upload our own draft in there, right?
Yeah.
And then try and see comparative analysis. Wow, that's actually a great idea, Phil. Because I would want to know, whether I actually connect, right, to the previous papers or not. Yeah, okay.
That's right. Great. So that's just, and obviously we got that for every paper. So, it depends on the subject. You'll get different types of comparative analysis, but it's always, for most papers, it should be there, and you've got those links through to those other papers. So the other thing I wanted to show you then is some of the export options that we've got in Scholarcy Library that people might not be aware of. Now, you can actually export up to 100 papers in one time. To change how many that you see on the screen in one time, you go into your settings and the view here, and at the moment it's set to 25, but I can increase that if I want to up to 100. And that will just let me export up to 100 papers in one operation. I don't actually have 100 papers here. I've only got 5, but you get the idea, hopefully. So the first thing that people want to do is, once they've got a collection of papers in Scholarcy, they probably want to create a bibliography from there. So let's just have a look at that quickly. So I'm going to export all these papers, and I'm going to export them to Zotero. So it's actually a file format that's supported by pretty much every reference manager. So you don't have to use Zotero or EndNote. You could be using Mendeley. You could be using something else. They all support this format here. So I'm going to export to those. The reason I'm using, let's just put that in there. The reason I'm using Zotero is just very quick to import there. So I'm going to click on that file, and it's going to just bring that into Zotero for me. With other reference managers, I think you might have to drag and drop, but with Zotero, you just click on the file and it goes straight in.
Yeah.
So what you can see here is you've got those 5 papers here that I have in Scholarcy. But what our export has done is exported all the information from the highlights and the summary. It's exported that into Zotero, and there we are. We've got highlights. We've got each highlight there as a note, so we can edit that if we want to add more information here, and so on. So we've got that highlight information, and I'll come back to this and explain why that's useful. We've got the main findings of the paper, and then we've got the longer summary. So for every paper, we've got all that extra data, and obviously we've got the abstract and the citation there. So the first thing we want to do is create a bibliography. There's many different ways of doing that in Zotero. I'm going to show you the simplest way. I just right-click on these items and do create bibliography. And I can choose my referencing style. So whatever referencing style you want is going to probably be in here. I'm just going to use the default one there. And it's going to copy it to the clipboard. So if I just click OK, and then I'm going to launch Microsoft Word. Most people use Word, but you might use something else for writing in perhaps. But it's copied it to the clipboard, so it means that I can just do paste, and there's my formatted bibliography all done nicely for me. So I don't have to worry about that. And then if you're using
in a few seconds. Just in a few seconds, very quickly. Yeah. Okay, great. I'm sure there are many people who are very happy about this, because what we have done so far is we've been showing how you can copy paste from Google Scholar. But this is obviously the fastest way, Phil. This is so interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Zotero is a free reference manager. I think Mendeley is free as well. So they will all import into those, and then you can do the same thing. But the other useful thing you can do, as I mentioned that all the highlights and the summary information from Scholarcy is imported into Zotero. So if I select those items and there's an item here, it says create report from items. If I click on that, do you see we get this nice formatted report for each study? We get the abstract, the link, and then we get the objectives, we get the highlights. All the information from Scholarcy, the findings, is all in there for each one. and then you can save that. Again, you can copy and paste that into Word, so you can then edit that. So if that's useful for your revision to have all your notes in one place for each paper, then that's just an easy way to do that there as well.
Oh, wow. I'm sending this recording to some of the supervisors that I know, because most of them are complaining, my students take like 6 months to do literature review. I don't think so. I don't think it's 6 months now. It's very quickly, very quick. You can come up with this. Okay.
Great. Well, there's more, because the other thing we can do is export to Microsoft Excel and generate what we call a literature review matrix, where we can see these studies side by side.
Yeah.
So let's do that. So I'm going to my export menu again. I'm clicking on this box here to select all of them. And I don't know if you can see down the bottom, I've got Excel selected as my format. So I click on that, just save the file. And I'm going to open that file in Excel. So I'll just make that a bit bigger so you can see that. So just a second. It's a little bit small there. So what it's done is it's taken all the information from Scholarcy and it's put it into columns with one row for each paper. So you can, I'm just going to just make the formatting a bit better there, so you can see what's happening. So what I'm going to do is select all this, and it's also got any notes as well. So one thing we haven't really shown you is the note-taking feature in Scholarcy. But if I add a note to a paper, that gets exported into that column. So we can format this a bit more nicely here, turn it into a table, and that means that we can filter. So we can filter by keywords. So we can unselect the keywords. We say, I'm just interested in ones about entrepreneurial stuff, and it will just show that. So we can do all the filtering, or we can select everything and see all the papers here. But what this does is shows us every paper side by side, so we can see which ones have study limitations. So in this case, only one paper talks about limitations. 2 papers have data availability statements. Here are the findings of each paper. Here are the participants in each study. So this one had 13. This one used 53 samples. So we can compare and contrast papers across their different findings and participants and methods. And that's all there side by side. We can also see the main contribution of each paper. So it's kind of like, what is the main takeaway of each paper? And that's in this column here. So we can see that they found that in this one about plastic pollution, they found in the southern hemisphere, it's in the same range as the northern hemisphere. In this paper, it's about reviewing mRNA. So there's obviously very different papers. In the real world, you'd have papers all about the same subject. So you'd have all your business studies papers, you'd have all your entrepreneurial papers, or all your mathematics papers, or whatever. But the idea is you can see at a glance, just by clicking on that, what is the main contribution of each paper there. And then so that can then help you can obviously then play around with this in Excel. I'm sure people in your group are experts in Excel and know how to use this better. But that's all that information side by side for you.
Wow, you're making a lot of people happier today, Phil. Honestly, because what we've been doing is we've been doing it manually, meaning one by one, right? And it just take a bit more time. But with this, you can actually, and for me, the biggest thing is to be able to show your supervisor, look, here's my reading for the week, and this is so useful. We can update all the time, right? So is there anything else you are adding? I mean, any other thing that you want to mention?
I'll tell you about some things that are coming. So one thing we're going to be adding into the export that's not there at the moment is exporting to PowerPoint. So you'll be able to export each flashcard as a PowerPoint slide. So if you're putting your own papers in there, so either you're putting your own chapter of your thesis or other papers that you've written, what it will do is export to PowerPoint slides, and then you might want to use that as the basis if you're presenting your work. For example.
Yes, I would imagine that, because a lot of students are presenting their work now, and it's all online basically. In Malaysia, everybody is doing it virtually. Wow, this has been a very interesting information so far. Are you that's
Notion? Does it?
Okay. Notion, quite familiar with Notion.
Okay, well, if I've got time, I can talk about that quickly as well. So one thing you can do in Scholarcy is export to Notion and any other of these tools that use this text-based format here.
Yeah.
So we have this export, and you can do it at the individual card or at the whole library level. But if I export to this format down here called Markdown,
Right.
I won't do it now because it takes a little while. But
Yeah.
basically, export to this
Right.
format, though you can import those files into Notion, and it will generate a Notion file for you. So it will look. Maybe I'll show you quickly, actually, just to show you so you can understand what it does.
Because I do know some friends are using Notion for their
Yeah.
PhD work. Yeah, and it's so easy. Yeah.
So I'm just going to export that file, and if I go into Notion, if I do import, can you see that it gives me a text and markdown option there?
Right. Okay.
So if I go to that, file that I imported, and where is it? Oops, hang on. I have to unzip it. Right. So now if I go to there, import that file. It's going to upload it and turn it into a Notion card for me, and then you can edit it in there. So there we go. There's the information in Notion with the key term. Oh, it's even got the figures. Look.
Really? Wow. And I do know several friends are saying, wow, I love Notion simply because everything is online, right?
Yeah.
And they are very, they even share it with their supervisor. Wow, this is interesting.
So you've got it in Notion there. But also, I mean, a tool that I use is called Obsidian, and it will do the same thing in Obsidian as well. So I don't know if anyone uses that, but it does the same thing. It exports it into this format that you can then read there. Okay. So that's just a quick snapshot. Now we have got videos on YouTube that talk about all this stuff. If you go to our YouTube channel, talking about the Excel export and all the other things in more detail than I've been able to cover today.
Sure. Okay. And we keep sharing the Scholarcy YouTube channel. In the SG so that they can go. However, they just prefer to listen from you live, Phil and Emma. They keep asking, when are they coming again? I say, wait. Because thank you so much. This has been a very interesting update for me as well. I'm currently writing my DBA thesis. Oh my God, headache. But honestly, Scholarcy has made my life easier, Phil and Emma, simply because those have been the number one, problem for us, and I believe everyone is having the same thing. So thank you so much. I believe a lot of new things we learned today, and I will keep sharing about the latest thing, the latest update from Scholarcy. Is there anything else you want to mention to us, Emma? Maybe is there anything?
Oh, you're muted, Emma.
Sorry, you touched earlier, Anita, on our Smart Synopsis tool. So we just wanted to highlight the fact that that's available for anyone to test out. We can share a link that you can share with the group later, Anita. But essentially what that does is generate more of an abstractive and more of a narrative summary of the paper. So it will, it'll talk about the key findings, it'll incorporate key highlights, but it'll present that in a more of a narrative paragraph that's potentially easier to read. So we are looking at incorporating that summary format within Scholarcy Library in the next few months. So we'll keep you posted on that.
Thank you. So thank you, Phil. If you have anything else.
Well, I thought I'd just quickly show you the Smart Synopsis that Emma mentioned, if that's okay. Where are we? Share screen. Okay. So if you go to summarizer with a Z or a Z, .scholarcy.com, it's a little bit like our flashcard generator, so you can upload a paper. And here's an example of the format that Emma mentioned. So what it does is it gives you like a one-line summary of the paper, and then it tells you what the authors, what their goal was, what they were doing, and what their findings were, who was involved in the analysis, and so on, and then any limitations and so on of the study. So it creates like a couple of paragraphs there of a quick overview of the study. Goes into a bit more detail, but it's quite short. You can upload any file from here, so you can upload a file from your computer and click either Synopsis or Review. If I click Synopsis, it gives me an even shorter summary of just one paragraph. It takes about 10 seconds, but you can try it, then it's free to use. So it doesn't have as much information as the Scholarcy summary, but it's more of a simple digest, really. Can be quite useful. So it's free. There we go. So we get the one-line summary and then a quick sort of overview of the paper. So we're going to incorporate this into Scholarcy Library at some point in the next couple of months.
And I imagine the reason, the usefulness of this will be people who would like to decide whether they want to go ahead, read the paper or not, whether it's really relevant. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
It's a really useful screening tool. So we'd love to get feedback from the community as well on the value of this sort of summary output. It would be great to hear from people, and just how they find it compares, say, to the key highlights or to the longer Scholarcy summary.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So if you have anything, like, for example, you need a quick survey, just send them to me and then I'll share them in the group. Yeah. And then we'll see how it goes. Wow. Thank you so much, Phil and Emma. I believe today has been, one of my productive day. Simply, to get to know. Before this, I do have, I explored a bit, but I just need to listen from both of you. I'm like the same, better listen.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, we're happy to be here. It's great to see you all again. And,
no problem. Yeah, I'm just waiting for the right time to actually travel to the UK, and perhaps 2023 is a better time, not now. Yeah, perhaps 2023.
I hope. Well, we hope to see you soon. That'd be great.
Soon,
Thank you so much, both of you.
Thanks very much.
This has been very interesting session for us. So for the rest of you, I will send the recording to those who have registered, and look forward to more interesting things from Scholarcy team. Thank you, everyone.
Talk to you soon. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.